Hey everyone, welcome back to Honest About the Irish, brought to you yours truly, B-Man is mad. I'm a day late. Usually I respond right after every Notre Dame game, at least a half an hour. But last night after the performance in the first half, I was screaming my mouth off, I was cussing, I was being a bad boy, I was using bad language that I shouldn't use. And you young folks out there who are under the age of 18, never use swear words. And for you guys out there, never swear around ladies because it's very unattractive and it's very, very unprofessional. Never try to swear. Don't be like Uncle B-Man. Try to be better than B-Man and don't swear during games. I am the old school type of fans where I learned the F word at the age of 5 years old because of Saturday afternoons in the fall from a very angry person because Notre Dame was losing. And I'm not going to name any names, but I think you get my drift, and those of you who know me knew who I'm talking about. So, as you can hear my dogs fighting in the background, I apologize about that. They were supposed to be producing today, and they failed on that. And by the way, you guys are fired for not sitting behind the camera and making sure I'm saying the correct thing. Now, let's get into the game. 31-14, Notre Dame falls to Alabama, which was expected. Notre Dame, again, in the Year 6 bowl game, since 2000 has lost, have been blown out, have lost by a combined over 17 points. Notre Dame, of course, lost by 17 points, so they continue that trend by losing by 3 scores or more. Since 2000 in the Year 6 bowl game, they have been outscored by 161 points. And, you know, I mean, I'm surprised, but I'm not. I'm angry, but I'm not. This is what we all predicted. This is what everyone was expecting. The only thing that didn't happen in this is that the score wasn't covered by those bettors out there. Notre Dame lost by 17. I believe the game started yesterday. Before it started, the spread was over 20 points, 3 touchdowns. So I guess that's good news in a way. But the also good news is that Notre Dame did not roll over and quit like some teams do before Ohio State, and we will get into that. I'm not talking about Clemson. I'm talking about a certain team that's in a state just north of Indiana. We'll get into that. That's part of my show today. But Notre Dame did not roll over and quit. I thought that they ran the ball there pretty well for a couple quarters, and they were able to create holes and exploit a weakness in Alabama, that you can run the ball on them if you have a good offensive line and you have a good running back. And Ohio State might have seen that in the tapes, and they're going to see that in the tapes before they play Alabama here in a week in the national championship game. And by the way, congratulations to the Ohio State University. I've been critical of them because of the way the Big Ten handled it. I've been critical of how they were handpicked to be in the Big Ten championship game, even though they didn't have enough wins at the time. And I'm still going to be critical about that, but they are a good team, and they did take apart and pick apart Clemson pretty easily last night. Now, I think Ohio State had a chip on their shoulder. I think they had a little motivation because of praise the Lord, but Dablo Sweeney, I always have a hard time saying his name, had kind of was talking shit about them, kind of putting them down, saying that they were only 11th team in the country and put 10 other teams in front of them because of the way they were picked by the Big Ten to be in the Big Ten championship game after they violated one of their own rules and changed their own rules. Now, I think that rubbed Ohio State the wrong way, and it would do to any fan base. If that happened to Notre Dame, I'd be very pissed. So I don't blame them for being angry about that. I just didn't like how the conference handled it. I have nothing against Ohio State. I mean, I don't really care for them, but you get my drift. So I think Dabble Sweeney, bit off a little more than, how does the old saying go? He bit more than he could chew, or he bit off a little more than he can chew, I guess they could say. I'd probably butchered that, but I think you understand what I was trying to say. And it ended up biting him in his ass last night. It was instant karma. So Ohio State and Alabama will play the national championship game. So congratulations to Ohio State. And congratulations to Alabama for beating my team, not literally because I don't own them, the University of Notre Dame, 31-14. Now, I'm going to get into a few things here today. The Texas A&M argument, why it's hard being a Notre Dame fan. I always talk about that. And the Michigan fans creeped up under the woodwork last night, as they always do when Notre Dame loses, but they have no room to talk. So I will definitely criticize them and bash them and Khaki Pants Harbaugh for being a quitter and a sore loser. So let's get into the game. It started off as predicted. Notre Dame, the kickoff was really the indication of how the game was going to go when the ball bounced off Kaiser and they almost fumbled the kickoff return. And Notre Dame had poor field position to start off the game. That was the indication of how this game was going to go. That was basically a wall hitting Notre Dame. And that's basically what Alabama is. They are a fantastic physical force, huge wall that once it hits you, you're knocked out. Kind of like Drago, like I predicted in the Rocky IV reference. They definitely got knocked out, but no more than movie references. We clearly saw the athleticism difference in Alabama. Alabama, now I did say 15. They do have 5-star recruits in 30 positions. Notre Dame only has 2. Now, Alabama has high-end quality, high-end talent in pretty much every position on their team. Notre Dame has it spread around here and there. Alabama has it at the tight end, the running back, the quarterback, the offensive line, the defensive end, the linebackers, the cornerbacks, the safeties, just all over the place. Notre Dame is sporadic. So you saw that big difference, and it was expected, and I expected it. But you know what? It's hard being a Notre Dame fan because, like I said, when you see your team lose the way they do, when you know they're going to lose, because you don't want to lie to yourself, you don't want to give yourself false hopes, it still hurts. And I'm the type of fan that really doesn't believe in faith. I'm the type of fan that really doesn't, when I know something's not going to work, I know it's not going to work. I don't believe in false hope. Like, if I'm on an airplane and I'm 30,000 feet above the ground, and this is probably going to be a terrible analogy to use, but if I know I have no chance of living and I have no parachute, and I have to jump off a plane because it's on fire and it's heading towards the ground, I know I'm not going to live. I mean, you know it's over. And why do you give yourself false hope? You pray, you give your love to all your family members, you think about the people that made a difference in your life, and you try to make yourself a better person the next 15 seconds you're alive on the earth. That's basically how I am as a fan. When I know Notre Dame has no chance, I give my opinion. When I know that they're going to be blown out or beaten convincingly, I will say it. And people say you're negative, that you're not a fan, you're a fair weather fan, you only cheer for them when they win, and that's fine, that's your opinion. But however, I'm just realistic. I know what my team is. I know what, and not my teams. I literally don't own them. Don't confuse. I don't own the University of Notre Dame. I wish I did, because that would change a lot of things. Like, move them down south where it's warm. Nothing against South Bend, but it gets cold in this part of Indiana, and I don't like it. I wish it was warm right now. We had 2 inches of snow the other day. We had freezing rain all weekend. It's been crappy weather, and I miss the 75-degree weather, so I can be out in my boat, jumping in the water, and having a beer, and having a cigar, and talking to random people at the sandbar on the beach. But anyways, to put it simply, if I owned Notre Dame, I would move them down to Naples, Florida. I'd buy about 50 acres of land and build a stadium down there and everything if I was a gazillionaire. But anyways, back to the game. They finished the year 10-2. They lose their last 2 games of the year convincingly by Clemson and Alabama over 2 touchdowns both games. I mean, it wasn't pretty, folks. It's just, this is what Notre Dame is. This is what I've accepted. And I was still mad. I mean, I was still angry. I lost my voice. That's why I didn't come on here a half an hour after the game. Like I said, I wanted to rest my voice and do notes and think, because most of my notes are up here. I just think about what I'm going to say, and I just blurt out to you guys. But, we finished the year, not we. There we go again. I'm saying the word we again. Notre Dame finishes the year 10-2. They had a special year, COVID-19 special type of year, where they were in a conference for 1 year. Now, the rumor is that they're going back to independence, so we'll see what happens. But they go to the conference championship game, and of course, we know the results of that. They beat a number 1 team. Yes, I know, without certain players and certain key players and their big-time quarterback, but they still beat a number 1 team, and they had a lot of accomplishments this year. And Brian Kelly, I think, grew as a coach this year, too. It took him a while, but I think they're slowly getting closer to getting the recruits like Alabama. I don't know if it's going to take a couple more years. The recruiting process is a very delicate. You got to be very patient with it. So maybe by 2024 or 2025, maybe Notre Dame will have the type of caliber recruits that Alabama has and Clemson has. Not as many, of course, because of the academic levels, but maybe just enough where Notre Dame can compete against teams like Alabama and Clemson, because nothing against Ian Book. With that offensive line Notre Dame has in Kyron Williams, I think if Notre Dame had a Trevor Lawrence-esque type of quarterback or a Vince Young type of quarterback, that would have made a huge difference in the game yesterday, because that's the kind of quarterback, kind of star player that Notre Dame needs. Nothing against Ian Book. Ian Book is not a Trevor Lawrence caliber quarterback or a Mac Jones caliber quarterback out of Alabama, or of course my favorite all-time college football quarterback, Vince Young. But he's below that. But he's still a productive, good quarterback, and he had a great year. Nothing to take away from him. And I know a lot of people are probably going to scream at me and leave nasty comments for saying that because I put down Ian Book, but that's not what I said. I'm just being honest. If Notre Dame had a 5-star recruit quarterback who's very fast out of the pocket like Ian Book has, but more athletic, it would have made a difference in that game yesterday. Believe me, it would, because I love the type of quarterback that can escape out of the pocket and have a good arm as well, and have a great offensive line that Notre Dame has. Plus, with Kyron Williams, Notre Dame would be a great team. And that the results of that game yesterday would have, probably could have been different. But that is a dream, and Notre Dame, they'll be very lucky to get a quarterback like Vince Young or Trevor Lawrence. You never know, hopefully. Even though Ian Book is the most winningest quarterback at Notre Dame, he did throw his third interception yesterday of the year, which was a brutal interception. Notre Dame had a little momentum down there. They were going down the field. They had stopped Alabama on offense twice. And I think at that point, when it was 28-7, I think Alabama had taken their foot off the pedal a little bit. But you know what? Who knows what would have happened if Ian Book did not throw that interception. They got a first down, went down the field, and scored a touchdown. We'll never know what happened because it didn't happen. And unfortunately, we cannot build a alternate reality and type in the space, excuse me, the space continuing thing from Back to the Future, whatever you call it. What would happen if Ian Book did not throw that interception? That cannot be disrupted. Doc Brown and Marty McFly are not here, who can't help me with that. But that would be kind of cool if we could do that. Go to an alternate 2021, January 1st, where Notre Dame actually beats Alabama. Kind of like when Biff went back into the future and became a billionaire because he stole the Sports Almanac book. Kind of another movie reference there. I screwed up on the wording. I apologize for that. But you 80s dorks out there and you nerds who love movies, you'll know what I'm getting at. But listen, I was mad last night. It takes me a while to get over these games. It still hurts. I'm still not over the 1993 Notre Dame Boston College game. That was a terrible, terrible game. Terrible way to finish the regular season. But yesterday, I knew it was going to happen. And like I said, it's still, you get punched in the gut when you see it happen because it sucks watching it national TV. And, at halftime, I was already pissed off. I was already negative. I knew the game was over. And I put out a tweet on Facebook, or a post on Facebook, and said, can Brian Kelly just go concede to Nick Saban? Can he just, but we don't do that at Notre Dame. Well, they don't do that at Notre Dame. I'm not with Notre Dame. They don't quit like Jim Harbaugh did and did not forfeit because he used the virus as an excuse. Brian Kelly knew probably going into this game that he had a tall task held against him, but he didn't roll over and say, you know what? We're going to use COVID-19 as an excuse like Michigan did. And that's the one topic I want to get into as we switch gears here. During the game yesterday, and they always seem to come out. They always come out during the Notre Dame loss. I don't care if it's to Michigan State. I don't care if it's to Purdue or Southern Cal or Navy or whoever. But when it's on the big stage game, all the Michigan fans come out. My friends, my Michigan fans that are on my channel, always leave comments or email me and say some pretty nasty things about Notre Dame, saying that they're overrated. They have no chance. They have no choice. They have no reason being there. Listen, like I said, and I'm going to be nice because I'm trying to start off a New Year's resolution here. I don't want to cuss so much on this channel, even though I probably have already a couple times, and my producers back there who were barking at each other had not warned me about that. That's why I fired them, and they will no longer be on my production staff. Now, when my team is terrible and the team I hate is playing in a big stage game, which Michigan hasn't lately because Michigan hasn't done anything since Jim Harbaugh is there. But if that ever happens and Michigan doesn't go 1-6 against Ohio State and Michigan State at the Big House, which is a complete dump, by the way, and they have a good season, they're in the next championship game, and Notre Dame is, let's say, equivalent of what Michigan was this year, and Notre Dame's terrible, I am going to keep my mouth shut, and I'm not going to call out the Michigan fans because I know where my team is. Now, the Michigan fans don't realize that because they're not smart enough. These type of Michigan fans are not smart enough to realize that they have no room to talk, and they are just the same type of people, like I said, that I've been dealing with since I've been a kid, since my parents moved us up to Southwest Michigan in 1992, is that they have no common sense. This 5 fingers right here is higher than their IQ level, and you can't argue with them. I'm sorry. It's like arguing with a brick wall. Now, what Michigan fans don't understand, those type of Michigan fans don't understand that they had a terrible year this year. They haven't done anything. Notre Dame has done more than what Michigan has done in 5 years. And especially when you have a coach who hasn't done anything, who says funny things and off the wall things to get attention because that's the kind of person he is. Because when he was a kid, he probably said shit like that because he wasn't getting attention from his parents, so he had to say it to make his parents go, "Geez, Jim, what the hell are you talking about?" That's the kind of guy Jim Harbaugh is. But Jim Harbaugh and the University of Michigan knew going into the Ohio State game, thinking that they could screw Ohio State over from getting into the Big Ten championship game. It didn't matter because we all know they got there anyways because of the rules change that the Big Ten made. So they had representation possibly in the college football playoff format if Ohio State would have won the Big Ten championship, which they did. Jim Harbaugh tried to sabotage that so they would not get in. He knew what he was doing. And also they used COVID-19 as an excuse. But what Michigan did is that they completely rolled over, like Notre Dame didn't last night, in the game and quit. They waved the white flag and said, you know what, we're not playing you. We're using COVID-19 as an excuse because we've embarrassed ourselves as a university as it is, and we don't want to get our brains beaten on national television, on Fox television at 11 a.m., on that one Saturday that they always have, because Michigan sucks and they are terrible, and they knew that they were going to get blown out, and they knew they were going to be decimated by Ohio State, and they knew that their season was even going to get worse, and they knew it probably saved Jim Harbaugh's job, which probably Khaki Pants won't be fired or let go, which he should because he hasn't done crap. And by the way, I'm a little surprised by Texas firing their coach. And they're going to go after, of course, Alabama's offensive coordinator there. So that was a little bit of a breaking news today. But why couldn't it have been Jim Harbaugh? But good. Better things need to happen, I guess, for Michigan for them to realize that Jim Harbaugh. Better things for me who hate Michigan. Maybe lose more games. Need to realize that Michigan. We need to get rid of Jim Harbaugh. So yeah. So Michigan fans out there who you have your IQ level, lower than my hand right here with the 5 fingers. Of course, you're probably thinking there's 6 because you can't count. But anyways, I mean, this is 6, by the way. Okay, in case you didn't know that. So don't bash Notre Dame fans. Don't come on here and leave comments on my email and text me and talk crap when your team didn't do jack shit and you use a virus as an excuse because you had no choice. No chance against Ohio State. So I wanted to put that to rest for the end of the year with the Michigan debate, so I don't have to talk about them until next college football season, unless there's some breaking news about Khaki Pants being let go or fired and prove me wrong. Then I will definitely talk about that. Now, before I end the show, there is one thing I wanted to say, and I during halftime, I went on my phone, went on my tablet, went on my computer, looked at comments around the world and on sports sites, ESPN, ABC, CBS, NBC Sports. And the big argument is that Texas A&M needed to be in there besides Notre Dame. Texas A&M should have been in there over Notre Dame. Now, the simple thing is that Notre Dame went to a conference championship. Texas A&M didn't. Texas A&M didn't beat a top 3 team. Notre Dame did. Even though there was no player, their star players weren't in the game and they were out because of COVID-19, still, Notre Dame did beat a number 1 team this year. So the argument about Texas A&M not making it to ACC championship game, not making it to the SEC championship game because they had their one chance against Alabama and they completely failed. And Notre Dame actually played a lot better yesterday than some of these SEC opponents, including Texas A&M against Alabama yesterday. So Notre Dame deserved to be in the playoff format. I will say that as a college football fan and also, of course, as a Notre Dame fan, but they deserve to be in there over Texas A&M. Notre Dame should be a top 5 team, but they probably won't. They'll probably fall to number 8 or number 9. Depending on what Texas A&M does tonight with a better record, they will probably end up finishing ahead of Notre Dame. That's just the way it is. But Notre Dame accomplished more than Texas A&M did this year. Yes, I know Texas A&M beat Florida earlier in the year, and Florida gave Alabama a little bit of fits. But like I said, Florida scored 46 points on Alabama. Alabama scored 52, so it really didn't make a difference. Your team every once in a while is bad to have is bound to have a bad defensive game. And, I don't see the argument with the Texas A&M thing. You had your one goal, you had your one chance to take out Alabama earlier in the year, and you failed and you got blown out. Worse than what Notre Dame did. So that is the argument I want to put away with Texas A&M and the Michigan fans. And being difficult, it is being a Notre Dame fan. It is very hard. I'll probably be over this by April, the way they've played the last 2 games. But it's what it's expected. It's what I expected. Notre Dame's close, but not quite there. A couple more years, hopefully, if Brian Kelly gets better with recruiting, gets the 5-star recruits to come in, maybe get a couple more key position players in that realm, and maybe a 5-star quarterback, which would be great. I'll have to look at the recruiting levels. But until then, Notre Dame's not quite there with the Clemson's, a fully healthy Clemson team. And so far, it looks like it might be even Ohio State, even though I said they don't look like an elite team. So far, they've proven me wrong. And, of course, the monster at the top of the mountain, Godzilla, Alabama. But Notre Dame is not quite there. We know that as a fan base. But they had a good year. They went to the ACC championship game. They won 10 games. They had an undefeated regular season, did what they had to do, and they still get criticized for it. But you know what? There's no one else that can compete with Alabama than maybe 3 other teams in the country, or possibly just 2 now. So just people like to hate on Notre Dame and pick on them because they just hate them for some reason. So that's it, folks. Again, thank you for joining me. Hit that like button, subscribe. It's been fun all season. I hope I've entertained you guys. I hope that, you know, that I've made a difference in your life. I know that sounds a little cheesy, a little cliche-ish, but, you know, cliche-ish, I should say. Again, we don't do grammar on here, so for you Grammy Nazis out there, for the last time, it's okay. I create my own words on here, my own sayings, and we don't practice grammar on here because it's a grammar-free zone channel. And, yeah, I mean, it's been fun. I'm not going anywhere, folks. I'll still be on here. You know, I'll have breaking news here and there. It's just the last Honest About the Irish during the regular season. And unfortunately, it didn't end the way we wanted it to, we being fans. But I will still be on here with the NFL draft. I'll give my opinion about where Notre Dame players are going to go, their recruiting, and the spring game that'll be coming up here in April, the blue and gold game. Hopefully, they'll let some fans back in there. I will go to that game and film the game on my phone or my camera and take some highlights and do an on-the-road show. That would be kind of cool. But I'm also going to do a MLB weekly show here during the summertime with updates about what's going on around the league, you know, who's hot, who's not, who's at the top of their divisions, what my opinions are, because, you know, I love baseball. As you can see all the White Sox stuff behind me, behind the banner, in past videos. You know I'm a huge White Sox fan. But I don't think I have the energy, I don't think I have the knowledge to do an everyday White Sox podcast or once-a-week podcast, because baseball is a very hard sport to follow. Baseball is a very statistic sport to follow. Very hard to write down stats and all that. But I will just do a weekly basis show about what's going on in the league, and that'll start this summer. But until then, I will keep on my Honest About the Irish show and give you guys updates on Notre Dame, where the program is, where the recruiting is, and how the NFL draft is going to turn out for them. And if they decide to stay in the ACC they got blown out in the ACC championship game. If they decide to stay in the ACC conference or keep independent, which they're predicted to do. But that's pretty much it, folks. Stay safe. Happy New Year, by the way. I hope you're not all too hungover still. And enjoy the rest of your weekend, and go Irish, and take care.